everything you
All right, 7 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order, the City of North Kansas City regular council meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Here.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
And Councilmember Palumbi had called and said she wouldn't be able to be here tonight. Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
And Councilmember Saper?
Here.
All right, next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. And that would be led by Councilmember Smith.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
A second.
First, second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
7-0, motion carried.
All right, number 5, comments from the public. Is there anybody wanting to make a comment?
Okay. Mr. Mayor, at this time, there is nobody in the attendees section to make any comments. I believe, as a FYI, I've been getting a couple notes that our website has now accessible. So hopefully people will be able to watch if they like. But at this point, there is nobody in the attendees section making a comment.
All right, hearing there are no public comments, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. Number 9, shared active transportation operating agreement with Bird Rides Incorporated, resolution number 21-029.
Eric, please.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Copeland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back in 2018, we held a City Council work session to discuss shared active transportation businesses, such as Bird and Lime, who had deployed dockless electric scooters for rent in the metro area at that time. After that work session, we collaborated with those companies on draft operating agreements, but then for various reasons, neither company entered into an agreement with the city. Lime left the market altogether, and Bird decided to focus its operations south of the river in KCMO. I've on and off been asked since then when we might have scooters in North Kansas City. And I've always said, well, we're kind of waiting for one of these companies to decide to come across the river. And recently I was contacted by Bird Rides about their interest in expanding into North Kansas City. So we went back to that 2019 draft operating agreement and mutually reviewed its contents. Bird did suggest a few red lines to that document, and city staff didn't have any problems with some of their minor amendments. I would note that the biggest of those was a change to the fee to be paid by Bird to a per ride fee of 15 cents for every ride beginning in North Kansas City, rather than the model back in 2018, which was $1 per scooter deployed in the city. This is the fee structure that this industry is moving towards and is also being used in KCMO and in other cities across the country. City staff does feel that scooters provide a benefit to the public by providing an additional form of transportation that has a relatively low impact to our infrastructure. Operating agreements with the company are required because the business is being done in the city's right-of-way. This also allows us to ensure that we have some safety measures in place, like contact person in case we have an issue with the scooter abandoned in the right-of-way, or we have any problems with where the scooters are being placed. Our ordinances already define where riders may lawfully operate scooters in the city, namely on the street or in bicycle lanes, but motorized scooters are not permitted on sidewalks. The term of the operating agreement that's before you tonight is through the end of 2022, with the option to extend it for 2 additional one-year terms. And we do have a representative from Bird on the meeting tonight in case you have questions about their operations or anything specific to do with scooters. And I'm also happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So I'm going to go ahead with one. What would we, I'm guessing it's not going to be much at 15 cents a piece, but where do you anticipate that money being used for? Or
it would go into the general fund.
The general fund. Okay, perfect. And one more follow-up. We already have an operating agreement with one company, right? Ride KC.
We have an operating agreement with Bike Share KC. They operate the bike share system here in the city. They are a little bit different in that they have a lock-to system. So bicycles must be locked to one of their 3 hubs in town or other defined locations. They can't just be left in the right-of-way. But yes, we do have an operating agreement with them.
Perfect, thank you. And then I saw Councilmember Smith, Clevenger, and then Roberts.
Okay, can you hear me all right? My computer's been glitching pretty bad. Okay, few questions from me. First one, the fleet size of 300. I know it's not to exceed, but is there a reason that 300 was picked? It seems like a lot for North Kansas City.
I'm going to throw that question to Adam Davis because that number I think is really more driven by what they think is reasonable for ridership in the city. So Adam, if you want to introduce yourself and take that question.
Actually, Sarah, this is Blanca Laborde on the call.
Sorry.
Hi, Adam. You're here too. Oh, I hadn't realized that. Okay. So yes, thank you, Councilmember Smith, for that question. 300, I believe that is the number that we had discussed when we first began to talk with North Kansas City back in 2018. It is a number that we believe will be the maximum number that we will deploy as we begin the program. Rest assured, the last thing we want are a bunch of scooters in the right-of-way that aren't being ridden. Because then, you know, your phone starts ringing and it makes folks in the community upset. And the last thing we want is an asset that's out there and not being used. So we intend to scale the fleet up very slowly over the first few weeks and months, and we'll only increase to that maximum number if we get to a utilization that supports it. And should there be any other should we get to that maximum fleet and we see that we have a very high utilization, we'll come back to you all and to Sarah and have a conversation about any further increases.
I appreciate that. And the reason the number's a little jarring is that's like 1 scooter for every 16 residents. So it seems like a lot, but if you're seeing the utilization and we're definitely policing where they get left, that sounds good. Second question, there's somebody in the background.
Sorry,
Okay.
that's me.
Okay. So if there was, if we had a lot of issues, say they're being left everywhere, they're dying and people are being charged for them. Is there an out clause that says, okay, this is going through 2022, but if we're saying like, this is just not working, what does that look like from our end? Could we cancel for cause and say, we tried and it didn't work out?
So,
Yes, if you look under section 7, the city may terminate this agreement at any time if it finds in its sole discretion that the shared active transportation operation threatens the safety and health of the city's residents and visitors.
Okay, and I didn't know safety and health. I didn't know if there was we could cancel only for safety and health. We'd have to prove that. I'm just thinking how this could go if it came down to that. I don't like to go in thinking things are going to go wrong, but if they did and it wasn't a safety or health, more just an irritation kind of thing, we're hearing from a lot of residents, what is our means to cancel, or what is our means to enforce that things need to be picked up, that they're not just being left around, and how would that look?
Right, well, that's a different question. That would be about abatement, which is section 10 of the ordinance. It does establish that the company has the burden to relocate, repark, remove, or otherwise abate nuisances or dangerous conditions as determined by the city. And it does give them a time period to do that. And in any event that, that's not done, then we can, pick those up and charge them for storing the scooters. Okay.
So it would be us expending some resources to do that. But if that turns out to be the case, that should work. Okay. And then the last one, I believe I read 15 miles an hour is going to be the max speed that they're locked to. Is that going to be standard across the entire city? Or is there going to be lower speed areas that you have noticed, on maybe the downtown area? What are the thoughts on that one?
Everything will be capped citywide at 15 miles an hour as we begin operations and we see how things go. And if there's a need to have lower speed limits in certain parts of town, we're happy to have that conversation.
Okay. And final question. I know that you guys have pretty granular ability to, set up parking areas, designate spots that they can be left. Is that something you're going to be doing here, locking them to only specific parts of the sidewalk, or how specific can you get with that?
We can set both virtual and in real life parking spots to direct riders to park. Some of those virtual parking spots, when you go to end your ride, it'll give you turn by turn directions and might show even a photo of a specific corner with the scooters lined up as an example. So yes, we are able to do that. We do have the capability.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Clevenger, then Roberts.
Couple of quick questions. Thank you for coming. I've heard a lot of residents that do want these in our city. Couple of quick questions. First of all, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, and this is a question for staff. So these are allowed to be in the bike lanes, even though it's a motorized vehicle, because I thought I remembered that in our bike lanes, well, maybe it was a motorized scooter or something, but I want a clarification about how they're allowed in the bike lanes. I think that's a safe place for them. Second question is for our maybe city councilor or staff, as far as liability to the city. If someone wrecks on those or gets hit by a car, does that have any liability for the city, or does it go back on the company? Those are my two questions.
Well, I can answer the question about use of the bike lanes. So bike lanes, you are allowed to operate a bicycle, obviously, but also a motorized scooter or a foot scooter. We don't allow motorcycles or basically anything that goes more than 20 miles an hour. So in the bike lane, you can ride your bicycle, a motorized scooter, an electric assist bicycle, but anything that has an electric motor that is capable of going more than 20 miles an hour is not permitted in a bike lane.
Council members, Roberts, please.
Do we have a question, the answer to the second question about?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm not sure that I'm qualified to speak to liability. That might be a question for the city councilor.
Right, that's a question that I'd like to ask.
Yes, Tom Barzee here. I don't know if Bianca, you have that in your right there in front of you. I'm trying to pull up the agreement, but I'm pretty certain there was indemnification language. They're also required to carry insurance. I was trying to
$2
put
million.
up the exact language in the agreement, but I felt that the city's interests, just as other cities' interests, when they have these agreements, are protected and actually protected quite well under this. I didn't get right to it, but I know it's in there.
Yeah, section 12 covers general indemnification, and subsection 2 says companies' contracts with every rider shall require such persons to release the city and any of its agencies, officials, officers, and employees to the same extent that company is required by the section to defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the city.
Okay, and also there's a requirement for insurance, it looks like under section 14. To answer your question, Councilman Clevenger, I believe that we're protected here, at least as well protected as you're going to get on something.
Councilmember Roberts, Tolden, Saber.
Yeah, I read all the 16 pages we were sent. It did seem like the insurance and indemnification was pretty tight on there. So I'm sure it's fairly similar to how the walk bikes are. But I love birds. First of all, I'll say that, and I've ridden my share of them. My questions are more kind of what we could expect if we launch. First, I know you don't do 12 months of year. Usually you pull them up at a certain time. Do you have those months of operation, what Kansas City has been doing?
Yeah, and we've continued, the industry has evolved a lot since we first launched in the area, and very happily now are able to bring our operations hopefully to NKC. And we are able to maintain ridership now, or maintain scooters in the right of way throughout the year, weather depending. So if you have some nice days in January, February, December, we'll be able to get some scooters out and meet some utilization.
Okay, that's great. The other thing is, let's say we start this agreement next month. Is there a minimum you have with your launch units? I know the maximum in the area will be 300, but do you start with, let's say, 50 units or 100 units, or is there something we can expect to see?
Happy to provide you with a launch plan. I would imagine that we will start at 50 or 100 and scale up from there.
Okay. And then my other couple are related to Kansas City area ridership. Do you know how many you have estimated right now in the Kansas City downtown area?
How many scooters we have, or how many riders we have? We have about 1,250 scooters permitted in Kansas City right now. We also recently launched in Kansas City, Kansas, with a small fleet.
And do you know what your the KC ridership is in Missouri?
April.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam. I know you just looked at these today.
Yeah. So April, we had over 54,000 rides in the month of April in Kansas City, Mo.
Are those unique rides, or is that total rides?
Total rides.
Do you have the unique number by chance?
Let me pull that up here real quick. If you want to continue with the questions, feel free while I pull that up.
Sure. Yeah, that's all I have here. I mean, that's pretty good for anybody who's not counting that at the 15 cents. That's a little over $8,000 they'd be bringing in 1 month.
My question kind of piggybacks on that one, which was, now that they're here, we're north of the river. I had a question about where you could go. I would think you could go across. We've got a pedestrian section of the bridge to go to KCMO. I don't know if we could go farther north outside of our boundaries. And then the 15 cents, this is where it ties into Adam's question. Would we be paid for scooters coming into the city from KCMO or only for scooter rides that initiate in North Kansas City?
So for right now, I anticipate, I know that bridge is a pretty long bridge. We'll be looking at utilization and seeing if there's a lot of rides ending, you know, on the NKC side, to see if people are trying to get over. Right now, we've always had the bridge as a geo-zoned area. There's lots of reasons we don't like people to be able to ride over the bridge. Part of it being that for some reason, people think it's fun to throw scooters, you know, off the bridge. So for now, I anticipate that we'll keep it geo-zoned, but happy to continue to have the conversation because we certainly want to, you know, our goal is to improve mobility, you know, including between the two cities.
I would add it, you know, I certainly think that's big for us, especially connecting the river market and some of our entertainment venues down here. And then we're getting ready to have a lot more units come online over the next couple of years and allowing those residents to be able to get out across the bridge over into the river market area. So it's definitely an important connection if we get that piece open for sure.
Yes, and now that we'll have a permit in NKC, hopefully we'll be able to, you know, accommodate with that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Councilmember Saper, I believe you had your hand up at one point. You're muted.
A follow up to the launch number. Well, when will be your distribution throughout the city? Do you have plans for that yet?
I'm sorry, I don't have anyone from my operations team on the call today, but they will look at areas that one, have a sufficient right of way to deploy while maintaining, you know, the ADA clearance, and two, often, especially at initial launch, near areas where you have those bike lanes. As we know that there'll be a lot of pedestrian movement around there, and there's a good and simple place for people to ride. You know, the more often you're near a bike lane, we see people ride in the bike lane instead of riding on the sidewalk.
Councilmember Smith, and then Councilmember Graves.
To add to the bridge discussion, I certainly understand the frustration of people liking to toss your expensive scooters over into the water. But I do see that, as Brian pointed out, the back and forth between River Market and North Kansas City being one of the most significant use cases for these scooters. I've also heard from a number of people who tried to go from River Market, got a third of the way across the bridge and then it got shut off. Maybe that's why they're tossing it into the river. I would really encourage some thought into allowing that bridge as a thoroughfare. It would be big for both sides.
Councilmember Graves, please.
First of all, great questions, everybody. I had a whole sheet of questions, and most of them have been answered. One of the main concerns I had was with the 300 number. That seemed excessive, and I was glad to hear that they were planning on starting small and then scaling up. I am pro e-scooter, and they're a blast to ride. I want to buy one for myself, and I realize that they're not affordable for everyone, and so this gives people an opportunity to utilize e-scooters that can't go out and buy one themselves. I noticed on your website that you offer like low income rides. Can you explain that, please? And I've got some follow-up questions.
Yes, so we have a program that is called community pricing, and it does provide a discount for folks who are low income and also members of approved nonprofits. We do a lot of outreach. I'm happy to send you the full list of who's eligible. We also offer that discount to veterans, and then we do occasional promotions like during COVID, we've been doing free rides for healthcare workers and emergency responders. We're doing a pilot right now, not a pilot. We are also providing right now rides to vaccination centers for free. So we'll run a whole other suite of programs, but we'll send you the whole outreach sheet on community pricing and plan to connect with folks in the community to see how we can get people signed up and then enrolled and then actively riding. Right.
Cool. I see that as a positive aspect, being able to, help low income people have an additional form of transportation and be able to enjoy e-scooters. I also like the the fact that we'd be opening up our bike lanes to additional usage, get more usage out of our bike lanes, perhaps less cars on the road, increase commuting via alternative methods of transport. I agree with the Mayor DeLong and Councilman Smith that the bridge connectivity between the Heart of America Bridge, that's one of the main pros of this entire proposal to me, is connecting North Kansas City with the city market. And if you take the bridge, being able to cross the bridge aspect out of it, this is much less appealing, in my opinion. I do like the connectivity of within North Kansas City itself, because we do have kind of different pockets within North Kansas City. Like Screenland is kind of separate from the Big Rip Brewery, is kind of separate from Helen's and Old Chicago Pizza, things like that. So I'm always looking for ways to help out our local businesses. And if we have people out and about and they want to go from one part of Northtown to another, this might encourage them to do so. I like the connectivity aspect of it. And then another kind of question logistically, these need charged, obviously. And I'm assuming from what I've read, people pick these up and charge them. There are people that do that as a job. And when are they picked up? Is there like a time of day when they're removed from the street? So like if I'm out and about at 2 o'clock in the morning, are there still birds on the street? Do they get picked up at a certain time and dropped off at a certain time, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they get, they are electric, so they have to be charged. And there is a trigger to pick them up once they, have less than 30, we set it a little bit different in every market, but less than 30% charge, there's an automatic trigger. A notice is sent out and a fleet manager will go and pick it up or remove it from the right of way. So it's continuous. You should always be able to find a scooter in the right of way. Ordinarily in most markets, we allocate, like, I don't know exact numbers because I don't have my ops person, but imagine we would allocate 375 scooters to North Kansas City so that we can account, if we were going to have 300 out, so we could account for that removal and charging.
And then just real briefly, I assume that we can park these in residential areas, correct? So if I can cruise, like if I'm at a business, I leave, jump on a bird, or can we just park these in our house, like in front of our house, so that, are these going to be in residential areas? Is that going to be allowed? That's my final question. Thank you.
I believe it is in the permit. We're allowed to, people are allowed to ride and deploy throughout the city limits. We can, if you want to geozone or do not want rides in a certain place, we're certainly happy to accommodate that. But yes, you could ride to your house and leave it, not inside, please, but outside, and someone will come and either come and charge it if it's out of charge or park it.
So one more question, sorry I lied. Mm-hmm. So people throwing these off the bridge, who threw it off the bridge, right? Because they were the last ones to sign up. So theoretically speaking, if I throw a bird off the bridge, what happens? Like, can't you go after that person? Or what happens?
So, it in some cases, yes, and we contact law enforcement, and that's vandalism and destruction of our private property. So yes, we can take action. It's not always super clear cut, because like your friend that rode a third of the way in might not have thrown it over the bridge, but the next person that walked by saw it there and thought, oh, this would be fun, right? We find that very often it's not riders that are vandalizing the scooters, because they understand the value of those vehicles, but rather, other folks.
I understand. I was just trying to come up with solutions to allow them to cross the bridge, because that's important to me. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, saw a lot of hands. Councilmember Clark.
I'm back. Okay, I'm going to be fast. The bridge, of course, I never knew that they couldn't cross it, because I've seen many people attempt. And also as a cyclist trying to cross the bridge, there were plenty of scooters parked along the bike path. So I'm actually just very curious about what that agreement looks like for a scooter rider to indicate, and you've mentioned a few things that you could give them very specific parking areas I'm not sure a lot of people are following that. I'm guessing you just deployed a lot more in Casey Mo, because I rode through over to the Brookside area and there were a couple parked along like right on the path, right at the start of the path for the trolley trail, and just parked right in the center there. And I don't know if that's another one of those where people shouldn't be allowed and so it just cuts off, because yeah, just sort of today I saw it again and it was dumped to the side. I think I'm just curious about really getting ahead of the parking issue, because of course we don't want to run into someone just literally leaving it in the parking lane. I like that we're going to keep it pretty open in North KC. I would vouch for that, for us to keep it open. Neighborhoods, everything, we're 5 square miles, we're pretty small. So I think keeping it wide open, and if that's feasible for the company, then that would work better for us, so that people aren't just stuck and saying like, okay, we've hit the void and now the scooter shut off. I think we'll have a lot less of the dumping and tossing.
Councilmember Roberts.
My one note is basically the bridge is it's kind of weird that they'd be throwing them off, because there is a big fence that protects you from jumping off yourself, and it's a protected bike lane. I mean, certainly you could walk it down around the fence at the edges of the bridge, but it is a protected lane already, and I'm not sure there's anything else you could really do to stop that from happening. I mean, at the same instance, I could be at the Big Rip Brewing Company, which is one of the closest businesses to the edge by the river, and find my way to the river and throw it in the river. So I think if like you're just trying to stop vandalism, I don't know if blocking the bridge, and it sounds like all of us see that as a huge benefit to crossing the bridge. And certainly Kansas City allows you to go, a quarter or a third the way already. So it seems like it's Bird and North Kansas City's, lack of permitting. So I think if we pass it, we all sound like we want the bridge to be an aspect, and I'm not sure of another solution because it already is protected with the fence and there is all those things already in place. What else we could do to allow that barrier to be crossed, so to speak?
You're a very motivated individual to get it over that fence. Councilmember Toll.
Yeah, I had just assumed when I said over the bridge in North Kansas City, I assumed that was already an okay thing. So I would also throw my hat in there for that. I think that will be very important to the success and the use. And I think you'll see your ridership increase greatly if you do that. The only other thing I want to bring up is, because this was really thorough, the write-up that people watching may not know, there are rules about where you are allowed to park and where you are allowed to drive. And as someone who's ridden scooters before, that's not always clear to me when especially if you're somewhere that you're not used to. And it does say that the company shall provide notice to all riders by means of signage, and it could be through mobile or web applications. So what have you found that works as far as being able to communicate to people who are using your scooters where they are allowed to ride and where they are allowed to park? Because, for example, you can't be in the middle of the sidewalk or the middle of the bike path. It's supposed to be on the edge.
Right. So what we have found is all of the above and repeated education. This is still a fairly new mode. And you're right. Sometimes you have different rules in different cities. Some cities they want people to ride on the sidewalk, or they allow people to ride on the sidewalk. Some cities don't. The parking is something that we are constantly coming up with new forms of education and incentives. So sometimes the incentive works, sometimes it's the carrot, sometimes it's the stick. So say we have a incentivized or preferred parking, we call it. You will get ride credits, for example, for parking there. Or we also have something that we call like a rider score. And so if you can have a high rider score, again, you earn credits, or you get preferential, free reservations, for example. So it's really about repeated education, and we haven't solved 100% the scooter parking problem. I don't think we've solved 100% the car parking problem either, but we can certainly keep trying and will. So when NKC, when people first ride, when we first deploy, there will be an opening screen, a pop-up on the app telling the rules in NKC, and then we'll continue to talk to you guys and to Sarah, and if we see, you know, a high number of parking issues, we can do different things like an in-app quiz. So you can't ride until you take this quiz, and you have to pass it on the NKC rules. And then we can go to the highest fines. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I am very much in support, and I think that you will be way more successful coming into North Kansas City if you open the route across the bridge to KC Mo.
But
I am in support.
I will also note that there is a huge benefit in the market opening to a connected market. So many of the riders from NKC will already have rider habits that they've learned in KC Mo and hopefully got their sidewalk riding out of the way. So that way, when they're coming into NKC, they know they're not supposed to. So that is a benefit of having the connected market to KC Mo.
Councilmember Smith.
All right. With the residential question that Councilmember Graves asked, I really like the ability to grab a scooter and ride at home if need be. If we see though that those are starting to clutter up the neighborhoods, what would we have the mechanism to call the 800 number and say like this isn't working out, and we'll just shut that off as an access point?
Yes, you can call the 800 number and we'll dispatch someone to pick it up. We also have a feature in our app that's called community mode. Whether you are a rider or not, you can download the app and report a misparked scooter.
Okay. I'm thinking more of like on a broader scale though, from like the city standpoint. If we were to see just chaos in the residential areas and too many of our constituents are just angry about it, could we stop allowing the scooters into those zones? Not ideal, but just in case.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last thing for me is, are you at this point able or willing to commit to opening up the bridge as we vote to approve this, the agreement?
Well, when Adam was answering a question a few minutes ago, I started texting our operations person saying, NKC really, really wants the bridge open. So
we're headed that direction.
Noted.
I think you would have a lot of happy customers if it doesn't stop when they get part of the way up the bridge. You get on the edge of that trip and then they're dying out right there. Any other council member comments for staff or Bert?
We'll move to approve the agreement.
We have a motion.
Adam seconded.
Second, and we have a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
And Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. Item 10, agreement with North Kansas City Special Road District, Knox Street / 13th Avenue improvements. Bill number 7578, ordinance number 9395.
Eric.
Thank you, sir. Back in February of 2020, the city council and staff talked about the fact that the rabbit hole, which is located generally at 14th and Knox, would be opening. At that time, it was anticipated to open in late 2020 due to COVID and other factors. It's now a bit behind on that schedule, but it is scheduled to open now in 2022. Was located in a place where we had some very poor street conditions and drainage conditions. And so staff suggested that we might retain our consulting engineer to design improvements, give us an opportunity to determine what it would cost to perform some improvements in the area that would improve the appearance, because we are expecting a lot of visitors to that area when the rabbit hole opens, many of whom will be perhaps visiting North Kansas City for the first time. And so we did have, the council did approve that design contract, and our consulting engineer did do a design, and they indicated that they estimated a cost at that time in August of 2020 of some $461,000 to perform all the necessary improvements. Of course, at that point, we were well into COVID, and we're very concerned about our revenue picture, so there's no way staff was going to recommend to you that we proceed with a project of that magnitude. And so it's that design has been on the shelf since that time. But just before he retired, our former Public Works Director, Pat Hobart, did approach the North Kansas City Special Road District and asked them if they would take on the project. They've taken a look at it. They believe that they can get this work after talking to the contractor that they would tend to hire for this work, McConnell and Associates, accomplish the project with some value engineering for $350,000. And they have offered to perform the project if the city will contribute half the cost. So the estimated cost to the city under this arrangement would be $175,000. It's conceivable that there might be change orders. And so the way that the agreement's written up, the city would consider change orders with an upper limit of $225,000. This is a new kind of arrangement for the city. We haven't done this before, but it does seem to staff that this is an opportunity to get a project that we believe is pretty important and necessary done for less than half the cost of what was originally anticipated by our consulting engineer. So the road district has not yet considered this agreement. They approved it in principle, but the city council would be acting on it, and then the road district would consider it here in about a week. So that's before you for consideration.
Councilmember Smith.
So Councilmember Graves, Mayor DeLong, and myself went down to the rabbit hole, and I want to do anything we can to help this place, not just because of them being a business, but because, as Eric mentioned, this is going to be a big gateway into North Kansas City for a lot of people. And when I parked down there, I parked my car literally entirely within a puddle, which is troubling because we don't want that experience for people. You know, my question becomes like, isn't the purpose of the North Kansas City Special Road District to prevent this sort of thing from becoming an issue like it is now? Should they not be maintaining the roads in a way that we don't have giant puddles the size of my car crop up? And if so, why is it the city's responsibility to fix what is down there in any capacity? Now, I can appreciate a cost sharing arrangement, and that may be the best way to get this done at this point. But I guess I'm not fully understanding what the special road district does, if not to prevent these sorts of things. So can somebody help me understand that?
I can venture a comment, Mayor, if that's all right.
Please.
Generally speaking, historically, the role of the road district has been maintenance of roads in a fairly limited fashion. A lot of milling and overlay of roads when the asphalt gets to the point where it's needs some rejuvenation. In recent years, when they came upon some settlement money, they undertook some larger full-scale projects, but in general, that has not been the traditional role of the road district. So I don't think that that's something that an expectation that would necessarily the city would have had of the road district. We do have some areas around town, particularly in that area, that have their issues, and I don't believe it's ever been traditionally expected of the road district that they would correct those problems entirely at their expense. In general, their revenues are somewhat limited on an annual basis.
Councilmember Saber.
My reading of the documents indicate that we're talking about 14th and Knox to 13th and 13th to Jasper. Is that correct?
That's roughly the project area. It would be Knox Street from 14th down to 13th and then part of 13th Avenue. Not all the way over to Jasper, but roughly in that area. That's the project area. Yes, sir.
It seems I took a stroll down there on my walk today, and the whole area of 13th from Knox to Iron is in pretty much the same state of, if you want to call it, disrepair and ugliness. And if we're going to do this project, it seems like we should take it from 13th from Knox to Iron, because that'll be part of the circulation pattern. People coming around on the one-way section of Knox over to Iron and then up to 16th if they're using 2935 to access the city, or probably straight west on 13th to the Heart of America Bridge access. So not to extend it seems very foolhardy. all the way over to Iron.
All right. Was there any other comments? Councilmember Grace.
Yeah, just real quick, as council member Smith mentioned, I did tour the rabbit hole recently, and I, as many of our public residents, ask about the rabbit hole all the time, and I was very skeptical of this project, having not seen it myself until I stepped foot inside. And I just want to let people know that the magnitude of this project is absolutely monumental. It's hard to describe how many people this will attract to North Kansas City. And I've been pushing publicly for more family-oriented activities here in North Kansas City. And this absolutely fits the bill for not only that, for our residents, but it's going to bring people not only from the metro area, but from elsewhere here into North Kansas City. This is a very important place. And when I toured the building, this project area where this project is scheduled to take place is basically where people will park. And so we don't want their first impression of the building to be parking in a giant puddle and broken gravel. And it looks pretty horrible. And so I just want you guys to know I have toured the rabbit hole. They wouldn't let us take photos. I would love to show you how amazing it is and how awesome it will be. We toured it very extensively, and it's incredible. And this is a huge project, and I support it 100%. Thank you.
Any further? Councilmember Dole.
I was just going to say, I see Tony's point on extending it. That makes sense. We have other businesses like in the Iron District that have put their funds into the area, and it would be good to extend it. But, you know, getting this started would be one step in the right direction. So I do support
You cut out there.
You went mute.
Yeah.
Or cut out.
Oh no.
It's gone.
I will move to approve.
Okay. Councilmember Clark, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say first reading. On that, to say, I appreciate Tony, you pointing out, but I think right now the focus is that parking so that the destination has been achieved. And then maybe we start to work our way around to kind of see what we can do for the other businesses, depending on how that execution strategy goes. But I can see your point of maybe while we're already tearing up the roadway or tearing things up there, maybe continuing on. But I think that just becomes like another delay potentially in redesign and things like that. I could be wrong.
I did have one question real quick. Any idea how long this would take, Eric?
The road district seems to think that once approved, they can get this done in a matter of a few months.
Okay. I see Councilmember Tull. I thought I saw her. She's back on the list. I'm not seeing the video.
I'm back.
Oh, there she is. Okay, you want to finish?
Sorry, I don't know what happened. It just kicked me off. I was basically done. I was just saying, yeah, I agree with Tony, but this could be a first step, and I would support to getting this started.
All right, we do have a first reading on the floor from Councilmember Clark.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Smith. Call roll, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
No.
6-1, motion carries. An ordinance adopting and approving a collaborative agreement between the North Kansas City Road District Number 9 and the City of North Kansas City, Missouri for maintenance and road construction on Knox Street in the City of North Kansas City.
I move that bill number 7578 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9395.
Second.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
No.
6-1, motion carried. An ordinance adopting and approving a collaborative agreement between the City of North Kansas City Road District Number 9 and the City of North Kansas City, Missouri for maintenance and road construction on Knox Street in the City of North Kansas City. Next number, 11, discussion of measures to protect pedestrians at 32nd Avenue crossing to Wagon Trail Dog Park.
I'm sorry, Eric.
Thanks, sir. The staff doesn't have any particular report on this item. Councilmember Smith requested a discussion of measures that might be taken to protect pedestrians at the crossing of 32nd Avenue from Northgate subdivision to Wagon Trail Dog Park. So as I say, we don't really have any staff report for you, but be happy to hear your discussion and try to answer any questions that council members may have.
Since it is Councilmember Smith's item, I'll give him the first here. Councilmember Smith.
So I've heard from a number of residents, particularly of Northgate Village, and those with dogs who walk through the Pocket Park along Swift, Erie Park. They walk through that over to the dog park, and it's a straight shot across a crosswalk. However, if a car is headed eastbound on 32nd Avenue, the pedestrians are shielded by a clump of trees at this point. If they're walking out toward the dog park, they would come from behind trees pretty quickly, and cars move down 32nd at a pretty decent clip. It's seen as a bit of a thoroughfare between the areas north of North Kansas City down to Burlington. So there's a bit of danger there. There is the crosswalk, but I'm not certain what measure we could take to increase that visibility. I believe when the townhomes are finally built on that portion that those trees are going to go away. But until that point, and even without those, it would be good to either have something in the middle that would block, that would make it more difficult for cars to pass at a high rate of speed, similar to what we had on Howell before they get knocked over and eliminated temporarily, or flashing signs on either side of the road that would allow a pedestrian to indicate they're going to cross, something to increase visibility. And I know speed bumps or speed humps are off the table because the fire response goes down that route, but I would be open to any discussion on other ideas.
Councilmember Toll.
I have also heard the same things, Jesse, and have walked, even though I don't have a dog, I've actually gone to the dog park quite a bit. One thing I want to pick up on is, regardless of the crosswalk, people do go really fast down that street, and it is seen as a thoroughfare. And there are lots of things that we can do about that. Cherry Street has a slip lane, and that slip lane does increase your speed when you're coming from the north on that street. In general, I don't support slip lanes for that reason. There is a sign in the middle of the crosswalk, but we could very inexpensively paint that in a way that's eye-catching. We also have a small bump out on where the crosswalk is on the southeast side before you get to where the homes are, where people actually park. And we could beef that up and put it to protect the people that are crossing, as well as the cars that are parked. It just depends how serious we are about slowing people down on that street.
Councilmember, I believe Roberts, I saw you had your hand up. Or no?
I did, but I think Lisa just
okay. Perfect. Was there any other comments from council members? Go ahead, Councilmember Smith.
So I know we're still kind of working on getting Howell accomplished. It's been offing for a little while. Do we have any, I know this is just a preliminary discussion, but maybe Sarah can chime in on what some next steps would look like to get this moving forward, rather than us just talk about it and then it kind of, goes away.
Well, I would suggest that you might call on Anthony Sands to talk about flashing signs. That's something that I think would be easier to accomplish than bump outs. We have had a lot more room to work with on Howell than we do on 32nd Avenue. So I think the options for additional bump outs are limited. But Anthony has put in flashing flashing pedestrian beacons maybe might be the right description, and he could tell you more about those as an option.
Sure, Sarah, thanks. This is well, if it's requested, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
There are, yeah, as Sarah mentioned, several options, I guess, we could investigate for flashing signs. Something kind of close by would be a rapid flashing beacon, which has just been installed on North Oak, kind of up by Cerner. Those allow, basically, when a pedestrian approaches the crosswalk, they can hit that button. It activates a couple flashing lights and really highlights the intersection. Again, that would be something we could look into, just investigate, you know, how it would fit in that scenario for the traffic and for the pedestrians, if that is the right answer. So we could definitely investigate that.
So did you have a follow-up, Councilmember Smith?
I appreciate that. If we could get that mocked up and see what the cost would look like for something along those lines. And then I agree with Lisa too about the slip lane, but that's KCMO, I believe. So I don't think we have any say in that. We could send to them a strongly worded letter.
No, that is in our municipal boundary.
The slip lane off of Cherry?
Yes, it is.
Can we get rid of that?
We can look, I suppose we could, sir. Let us look into that. But if it's within our city limits, it's city street, I believe we would have that ability if the council wanted us to do that. Yes, sir.
Okay, I was under the impression that that was not our city limits. Okay, yeah, I would appreciate looking into that. I see people just boom right off of there without even considering touching the brake pedal. So that would be something worth looking into.
Councilmember Graves and then Clevenger.
Yeah, just two things real quick. First of all, the tree is the issue. I drove by there the other day. It actually is a pretty, just as a driver, I felt like it was a pretty safe crossing. There's a marker in the middle of the street that alerts you to stop for pedestrians. And if the visibility from the tree is the issue, I don't think it's like a huge tree. Why don't we look into just moving the tree? And then secondly, I like the idea of the pedestrian crossing, like flashing lights, where it can be activated, you push a button when you want to cross, and flashing lights, either that or remove the tree. And I just real quickly, on a side note, in our ward, in Anthony I's Ward 1, there's a scary intersection that I get a lot of complaints about. It's Clay crossing Armour Road, kind of by Dollar General going toward Paul and Jack's. That's a really scary crosswalk right there where you have people flying by. And I've had that same suggestion in that area as well with the flashing lights. So if we do go that route, I think that there might be other areas that might be called for as well. So thank you.
Councilmember Clevenger.
A couple of quick things. Thanks for bringing that up on Clay and Armour Road. That is, an intersection that doesn't have a light. So be looking forward to looking into that as well. But I'm in favor of the, flashing beacon. This may be a dumb question. I'm a non-driver. Can you tell me what a slip lane is so that I can kind of understand what you're talking about?
Councilmember Toll's ready.
When you pull up and without a slip lane, you would have pulled up and there would be a stop sign. But if it has a slip lane, I can go to the right. It has a turn lane where I don't have to stop, I yield. So if we had people coming from Cherry make a complete stop before turning, I think it would make a significant improvement on that road. I have used Cherry quite a bit and the slip lane, and I can tell you sometimes, like the sun, if you're coming home from work and the sun is right in your eyes and you're not being cautious, it's just much safer if you have to come to a complete stop there.
No, I would just go ahead and add, it's definitely an important crossing from the neighborhoods over to the dog park over there. And it sounds like we have some consensus to go ahead with looking at signs. And if need be, then maybe bring this discussion up again in the future to look at something else. Eric, did you need anything else?
No, sir.
Councilmember Smith, this was your item. Did you have anything else to add?
All good. Thanks for the discussion, everybody.
All right, then we will wrap this item up. Next item, please.
Item 12, Dag Park opening.
You're muted, sir.
There, I'm trying, guys. Eric.
Thanks, sir. I'd like to call on the Parks and Recreation Director, Victoria Ressler.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Given the Council conversations regarding the COVID restrictions and large gatherings in the past, the Parks Department wanted to gain input from Council on opening the Splash Ground Memorial Day weekend. When I started this conversation, restrictions were much tighter, so this may now be a moot point, with Clay County anticipating removal of the emergency order on the 28th if things go well, and if the city plans to follow suit. With restrictions lifting and everybody ready to get out in the sunshine, we feel this year may be very much like it was the first year the park opened, with the potential for large numbers of people. So at this point, should there be a delay with the health order or not, we are seeking any input you would like to see on operations, or if the council suggests we just follow suit with the other cities in the metro area and open as normal.
So Councilmember Graves and Councilmember Toll.
I'm in favor of reopening Dag Park. We need more outdoor activities, family friendly, healthy. We're on track to go back to the green zone. And then I realize it's operated by Parks and Rec Board, which is an independent entity, but I would like to she asked for input on operations. And I've had a lot of input from residents that I'd like to just kind of pass along a suggestion I've heard to maybe have like a resident only time at Dag Park, maybe put a gate code on the gate and allow resident access only like an hour early. Like for example, there's a gate code that's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe a little more complicated than that, that residents only have, that we can have access an hour before it opens, so that, as we all know, Dag Park gets crowded during the day, brings people in from all over the city. You know, you got people from Liberty, Parkville, Riverside, everywhere going there, and sometimes residents don't get to enjoy it because it's so crowded. So perhaps if we had a resident only time, then residents would be able to enjoy it more. So thank you.
Councilmember Toll.
I appreciate the write-up on this. When you said following other cities in the area, which other cities? Are you talking about the ones immediately around us, KC Mo, Gladstone?
So I talked to KC Mo. They have several spray parks that they are opening. Liberty, Independence is a little bit different than ours. And then I also Overland Park and Wyandotte County. So those were the ones that we had.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't surrounded by cities that weren't opening at full capacity, because I do think it's going to be a big year. So I think for that clarification.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I'm certainly for opening this back up. I think it's a huge asset to the city. To Councilmember Graves' point, I would love to see a resident only time. I just feel like if we distributed a gate code, it would very quickly become not resident only known. But if there's any way other than, allocating extra staff, which I know gets expensive, if there's any way to restrict access some way to residents only for a time, I think that would be pretty great. If not, let's open it back up one way or another.
Councilmember Roberts.
This is more just a statement, just so like people are aware. Last weekend, we reported the most cases in Clay County since February 2nd. We are still only at 27% vaccinated. So opening it up, it seems like it's going to happen regardless of what we're doing. We decided to follow the Clay County order. So if that, that's how it's going to go, that's how it's going to go. But I think we should all be mindful that we're woefully under vaccinations as cases begin to start going back up. So we should maybe consider, I'm not sure what the park looks like right now. And I don't go to Dag Park that often because I don't have kids. But I do walk by a lot and it does get very crowded. So maybe implementing, maybe extra hand washing or sanitization stations around, things that encourage people to be clean as best as possible. I know it's a tough thing to do, but encouraging people to be sanitary and clean and having signage up so people are at least being somewhat mindful in a splash park.
All right, any more Councilmember Toll?
Speaking on that point, I know that it's not really staffed only to check the water, correct? And I assume that the cleaning of the water, whatever is in place, is also good for the virus, COVID.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure that.
Any further council member comments? Victoria, did you get what you needed out of that, or do you have any additional questions?
No, I did. Thank you. And we'll definitely look into all those suggestions. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
Discussion of strategic planning goals setting session.
Eric.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahota.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city last engaged in a strategic planning or goal setting session back in June of 2018. That process resulted in goals, objectives, and action steps that set the general direction of the city and has served as a guide for city staff since that time. It's advisable to do this style of session or goal setting session every 2 or 3 years. We were on track to be able to do this process in 2020. In fact, we were about ready to bring you forward a contract when COVID-19 began to show itself in our country. We have delayed that process all of 2020, but now that the new mayor and council have been seated, we would like to bring that process forward again for consideration. In the memo that was issued to you, it was given 3 separate dates. This session is a 2-day process, and it is advisable to do it in person. Again, a lot of it is relationship building and small conversations, which, as you know, is kind of difficult to do over a virtual platform. One of the advantages to the dates that were given is if we were able to do it in the June, we'd be able to take that direction or advisement and fold it into the upcoming budget session. We are recommending engaging KU Public Management Center, which was the proposal that staff found to be the best to be able to guide the city through this process. Staff requests that the City Council discuss the availability on the dates below for this particular strategic planning session.
Councilmember Clevenger.
First of all, I think this is a good idea for the goal setting and strategic planning, especially with all the new council members that we have on our council now. I've been through a couple of these as being the most tenured council member on record, and they're very good. I looked at the dates, I thought of June. I saw that it was Arts in the Park, but a lot of it, we're going to be Friday during the day. Arts in the Park doesn't start till Friday evening. Got some on Saturday afternoon. So I can understand why wanting to do it early, getting it in so we can fold it into the budget. Just a quick question for staff, Eric may know, or Kim, is this the Patty Ginthrop, is she the one that did our session the last time?
Not the last time, but the time before.
Time before, okay, all right. I knew it sounded familiar, so even though they're KU people, I guess I could get behind going with them. So,
thank you to the most senior council member, as he noted, Councilmember Smith.
Well, as the second most senior council member, I've never done this because of COVID, and I'm curious logistically, what does this look like? Would this be us getting together at City Hall, or is this like go somewhere that's not City Hall and do some trust falls or something like that? Like, what does this actually look like?
We did the Parks Board last time, and then we did North Kansas City Hospital one time as well. So.
Right. So depending on the date, we have not engaged with the location yet, because the first question that they're going to ask is, well, what dates would you need? So once the council kind of directs staff as to what weekend works best for you, we would go and seek out a location. So obviously, if it was in June, it wouldn't be at the Parks and Recreation Center because that particular area would be programmed. We could look at North Kansas City Hospital, or perhaps the Diamond Conference Center. We do have some, or perhaps iWorks. We do have some areas in North Kansas City that are kind of big enough that would allow for not only a larger group session, but smaller breakout sessions.
Okay, thank you. And June, but the budget makes the most sense. Thanks.
Councilmember Graves.
As a rookie council member, I'm asking, is the city administrator involved in this? Because if we're about to get a new city administrator, would it make sense to wait until after the new city administrator is involved, to get them involved?
So actually, you're question. We have chatted with other city administrators kind of about timing like that. And one of the reasons why we were looking at maybe advantageous to do it in June rather than to wait for the new city administrator to come on board is as soon as that new city administrator comes on board, they would pretty much have their marching orders. This document really guides city staff's understanding of your priorities, not only for budget considerations, but how to prioritize staff to accomplish those goals. So although we could wait until a new city administrator was on board, that person really wouldn't have the depth of understanding of the community and the priorities. They would be perhaps an active participant, but it would be limited because they would be new to the community. So those would be kind of some thoughts on the timing of pre or post the new city administrator.
May I add a comment, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just for clarification, Kim. So the way that we've done these in the past, and that I think it would be envisioned again, would be the management team typically attends the two-day session with the council. The first day has been more of a discussion session. The second day has been more council setting goals with the management team being there as a resource, but not necessarily an active participant. But the way we've done them in the past, and I think Kim and I would agree that we would recommend doing it this time, would be that the management team would participate with the city council over the 2 days. And just to make clear, I would, even if it's in June and before I've left, I would not be participating this time around.
Thank you to the rookie council member for the question. Any other council member Clark?
I was actually going to vote for August or September for personal reasons. I have a trip. I will be returning on June 11th, but I might miss the trust fall day. I would make it for the second day. That's my only input here.
So I guess if we're up to this point, I don't know how we want to ask this. I mean, is there any other objections to June? Councilmember Graves.
I personally would prefer August or September. I can make June happen, but my June's ridiculously busy. And I would also suggest dodgeball.
Second.
Rollerblading.
Why not do both?
Oh gosh. Right.
We have anyone else have issues with June? So what are we thinking here?
Maybe Anna does, but she's not here. Yeah. So
all right. How do we want to go about this then?
If I may interject for just a moment, please. I mean, I think staff's preference would be 100% attendance. And the reason being is we want to make sure that everyone's voice is incorporated into this document. Again, this document is what really prioritizes staff's focus. And what we would hate to do is for a document to be drafted and then perhaps a person who was not part of the process wanted to add something and feels like their vision wasn't part of that process. So if I could ask for 100% attendance, I think that would be our preference.
So then I'll go down the list. Then it sounds like we have a couple that would prefer not to do June. So do we have any objections with August? Councilmember Clevenger.
Not an objection. The only thing as far as August, that would be fine for me as well. The only thing we could always look at is, you know, if something is really important to us and it's not able to be included in the city budget, we can always come with a budget amendment as well. I'm good with June or August either way, but if some people can't make it in June, then I don't have an exception to August. I just want to throw out about the option for budget amendments.
So I would just suggest, you know, Councilmember Graves.
Just a quick question for clarification. The dates are on here, but what time of day are we talking? Is this like a 9 to 5? Is it 3 hours a day? Like how many hours are we talking here?
At this moment, we would be looking at 8-hour days. Now, depending on how quickly the process goes, we might be able to shorten it. If we were to shorten it, it would be shortened on that Saturday.
Thank you.
Okay, so trying to get done as early as possible, and without Anna, I don't know, but I guess we have 88% not objecting to August. So if you guys are good with August, then we'll continue with August. Okay, there we go. August it is.
And there's nothing, Mr. Mayor, no MML conferences or anything in August, right? It's September.
I will be here at the strategic session if there is. So,
okay. Yeah.
All right. Anything else from staff?
No, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Number 14, revised Mackin Park Ball Field Number 1 cooperative agreement with North Kansas City School District. Bill number 7597, ordinance number 9394.
Thank you, sir. Well, I know that most of you, and I'd be happy to go into as much detail as you want, but I know that a lot of you are pretty familiar with this project. It's a project we've been working on with the North Kansas City School District for a couple of years. General idea being to split the cost of doing this project in half. It is a North Kansas City field operated by Parks and Recreation. It is used a lot by the school district. We did do bids last fall. They came in very high. We rebid the project early this year. They still came in high. We've worked with the school district and the park board to come up with a financial plan for getting all of these improvements done, and had a work session on this with the park board last month. And then just very recently, on April 27th, North Kansas City School District Board of Education did vote to approve the agreement that is now before you, which essentially provides that they will cover the half of the cost of the base project and pay that off over an additional 4 years. And the park board has agreed to pay for the alternates to the project. So it is now before you to approve this cooperative agreement. You have already previously indicated that you approve the contracts for this, subject to the school board's approval. Do you have any questions?
First reading.
We have a first.
Second.
The second. Any discussion? Give everyone the chance. No discussion. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance adopting and approving the First Amendment to Cooperative Agreement by and between the School District of North Kansas City, Missouri, number 74, and the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regarding certain improvements to Mackin Park Ball Field, Diamond number 1.
I move that bill number 7597 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9394.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
And Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance adopting and approving the First Amendment to Cooperative Agreement by and between the School District of North Kansas City, Missouri, number 74, and the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regarding certain improvements to Mackin Park Ball Field, Diamond number 1. Item 15, Memorandum of Understanding with Clay County Public Health, Homebound Vaccination, Resolution number 21-030.
Eric.
Thank you, Joe. I'd like to call on the Fire Chief, Dave Harkis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is a memorandum of understanding between the city and Clay County Health Department that will allow us to go to homebound individuals that can't make it to vaccination sites and administer the vaccinations in their home. This memorandum allows us to retrieve the vaccine from the county health department, administer it, log it with the state, and that way we can take care of those citizens that can't make it to other sites or have disabilities. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I'm going to put you on the spot on one. How many shots has the fire department already given out at Operation Safe?
I'm believing we're approaching around 9,000 shots that the fire department's given up there at this point.
Very experienced now. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Tull.
I think this is great. I was just going to ask a question to see if you have heard whether Clay County, if you'll be working with Clay County as the shots become available to children. So they may extend that to 12 and older for Pfizer next week. It's still out of my kids' age range, but do you know if you'll be working, Chief Hargis, with Clay County as the vaccine becomes available for children?
we'll continue to work with them. At this point, it'll be for homebound individuals or those with transportation needs that can't make it to places like CVS or the grocery store pharmacies that are giving it, or the health department is going to be handling clinics on a regular basis through the week for anybody that's in the eligible tiers. So right now, anybody that wants the shot can get a hold of them and we can schedule that. But we will continue to work with them. But at this point, for us, it will be for disadvantaged or homebound individuals that need special attention.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I would just take a quick second to thank the fire department for really stepping up during the pandemic in a lot of ways, including Operation Safe, and then taking this on. Councilmember Roberts.
How will individuals go about signing up for this? Because I know there's been an issue with getting people to navigate websites and different computers. Will they be able to call a number and sign up, or go to like City Hall or the fire department and find a way, a very accessible and easy way for somebody who's not computer savvy to get signed up and get the vaccine?
They can call the Clay County Health Department, City Hall, or the fire department, and we will assess those needs and make that happen for them.
Any further comments? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. Number 16, approving accounts due and payable by the city through April 30th, 2021. Bill number 7579, ordinance number 9396.
Is there first?
First reading.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through April 30th, 2021.
I move that bill number 7579 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9396.
Second.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves,
Yes.
Councilmember Saper.
Yes.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through April 30th, 2021.
Staff comments, please.
Thank you, sir. We have a couple of reports in your packet, the upcoming city and items of note, and the YMCA monthly financial report for March. Also have a memo in your packet asking you to reserve the dates that the city has traditionally done for budget work sessions in September, which this year would be Wednesday, September 8th and Tuesday, September 14th at 6 p.m. So if you could put those on your calendars. And I will call on the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahoto, to make a report.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Just a quick note that the Gorman pool passes have gone on sale at City Hall. I know that was a kind of a bummer last year that facility didn't open and we were not able to offer those passes. So we are excited to offer them again.
Thank you, Kim. And that concludes staff comments, sir.
All right, council member comments, which I believe are beginning with Councilmember Smith tonight.
Not a whole lot for me. Thanks for all the discussion. It seems like everybody's really doing their homework. And Kim, I'm not sure what helicopter you're riding on, but I'd love to heads up next time. Take a ride with you. That's all for me.
I was just going to remind everybody. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
That tomorrow is big item pickup. I've got a hammock chair stand that's got to go, so I remember that. And I know that we keep saying this, but Chief Hargis, you're doing so great in this position. I just feel so fortunate that you've been heading this operation, and I only hear great things. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Councilmember Clevenger.
Just a couple of things. First of all, happy Star Wars Day to everyone. May the 4th be with you. It's May 4th. Tomorrow, Cinco de Mayo, so make sure you get your margaritas in tomorrow. Also, this week is Public Service Recognition Week. So I want to thank all the staff and people that are public facing as far as city government, municipal government. I wish them a happy Public Service Recognition Week. Also, this is Bike Month. So, you know, the weather's nice, get out there and bicycle. Here in the near future, just an FYI to council members, I'll be bringing something for discussion as possible ordinances to protect harassment against bicyclists and pedestrians. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for our Parks Board members that are re-upping and being reappointed. Appreciate all the work that you've done, especially with all the work on the ball diamond that we've been doing. And forgot to say it last month, or last meeting, but look forward to working with the library board as being their liaison. Thank you.
Councilmember Roberts.
Well, between Smith and Clevenger, I got nothing here. It's May the 4th, it's Star Wars Day. You know, thankful for all of our city officials. And for Bike Month, I will be riding 150 miles a week. So if anybody wants to challenge me, I'm looking at Amy Clark. Let's do it. Do 600 miles this month. Let's get crazy. But that's it. It's weather is looking good. And just a reminder that if you're, kids or high schoolers that want to get vaccinated, 16 and plus can get vaccinated now. And let's make those appointments and keep those numbers up.
Are you saying you don't think I can ride 150 miles? It's just what we're saying.
Mayor, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Clark.
I see your 150. I think I'm already at 50 for the week, and it's Tuesday. I don't know what day it starts. Is it Sunday? Yeah. So I'm down. I'll do that. I just wanted to pull focus to a wonderful resident in Ward 4. I'm just going to read her little letter. It won't take long. It's amazing. I received this from Sadie. She said, "Dear Miss Amy, my name is Sadie. I am 9. I am not old enough to run for office." She's aware that she still has 12 years to wait. If you need any help or you think or what you think I can do, I'm here and would love to help. Sincerely, Sadie. P.S. I read about the park in your flyer. If you need help getting equipment, I am here. This is the first resident I've ever had just openly reach out to me to collaborate. And I absolutely look forward to collaborating with you, Sadie. I know you're watching tonight. Your mom sent me a photo. I think you're amazing. And I look forward to your input and future collaboration. So thank you.
Is that too young to be a legislative aide?
You know, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it chill. I'm right.
Councilmember Graves.
Yeah, so Sadie, shout out. You sound awesome. We got a lot of awesome people here in North Kansas City, and I'd like to shout out a couple friends on the Parks and Rec Board that I know have been working their tails off on the ballpark, and congratulations to them for getting that done and approved. Shout out to Ken Carnes and David Taylor. I've had long conversations with both of them, and you may or may not know people have been working on this ballpark for years and years. And so I want to thank them. That's going to be a great addition. The new Diamond 1 at Mackin Park, bringing baseball, high quality baseball to North Kansas City. And then also awesome people in North Kansas City last night. I hope you could catch it. There was an amazing concert at North Kansas City High School. The high school jazz band put on a show that was incredible out in front of the high school. If you didn't get to catch it, there's a short clip on the Residents of NKC Facebook page. If you're a resident, check that out. And I hope they do it again, maybe again in the fall and then again in the spring, and make a habit out of it. It's very enjoyable. And also, if you don't already know, Sunday is Mother's Day, and it's also Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm always looking for ways to support local businesses and take your mom out to eat. Go buy some gift cards, run to Donut King, run to Screenland, run around, buy gift cards for your mom, for your kids' teachers, and have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Saper.
Again, kudos to you, Chief Hargis, for what you've been doing. in getting the vaccinations accomplished and the work you put into it. And to remind people that the vaccination rates are starting to slip. And we need to talk to our friends and neighbors and others, even if they're enemies, about why they should get vaccinated, not for themselves, but for others as well. So let's keep talking that up.
Thank you. That brings it around to me. As mentioned earlier, Councilmember Smith and Councilmember Graves, along with Eric, did a tour of the rabbit hole, and they're really moving along. You're really starting to see the vision as we go through, and really looking forward to that project. I'm glad we could get some stuff done to help with the infrastructure around there, which is definitely hurting. So glad we got that done. Also wanted to update everyone. I did have a meeting with the hospital CEO the other day, as well as this morning, visited with CNC Produce and toured their facility as well. So been out and about, trying to meet with people and just make sure I'm out there. Board openings. Hospital board opening is still out there. I am going to be scheduling some time to talk with some people here in the next week or so, and then I'll be getting that filled. Possibly next meeting. And then we also have a liquor control board opening, which sounds exciting, but they have not met since sometime prior to 2013. So get your applications in anyways, because someday we may need it, hopefully not. But stay tuned and watch for more openings. And you're always welcome to apply for any position anytime, and it makes it easy to go ahead and have it on file. So that's all I have. And that takes us to number 20.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a real estate matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute section 610.0212.
So moved. So moved.
Rick first. And second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. If you please proceed on adjournment.
Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.